Hi everyone, my name is Sneha and I'm going to be talking about decentralized, otherwise known as crowdsourced dispute resolution. But before we start, I'd like you to just take 30 seconds, pause, and think of what your definition of justice will be. I'm not going to ask you to say it out loud, so don't worry about that. But this is a definition I'd like you to revisit after the end of this talk. Okay, so justice is actually a subjective concept. It's a subjective concept, and different people have different perspectives of it. To me, justice refers to the ability to actually get a fair hearing. It does not necessarily mean that if there has been a dispute that somebody who I'm speaking to, such as the juror, would vote in favor of me, but justice just means that you've been given the ability, you've been given a fair hearing. So I come from a country where there are over 1 billion people, and unfortunately, over 50 million cases are currently pending in courts in India, and 100,000 cases amongst this has actually been within lower courts for over 30 years. And this is not just the case in India. World over, there are cases which are pending in courts. So what this means is people don't really have access to justice. A, because the forum that would ideally be hearing your case wouldn't have the time because they're overburdened. B, even if you were to get your case admitted in court, the whole process can be dilatory, which is it can take forever and it can be expensive. And this is just domestic cases. What if you have cross-border disputes? It's far more expensive, right? This is where alternate dispute resolution comes in. The good thing about, one good thing that nation states did was to recognize alternate dispute resolution as a legal way to resolve disputes. So you would have heard of terms like arbitration, mediation, negotiation, and conciliation. So these were actually things that courts recognized to have disputes resolved so that the burden on them would be put into other private bodies. Of all these means of resolving disputes, arbitration is actually the only widely recognized legal means of resolving disputes. What this means is, if a dispute has been resolved via arbitration, the judgment from that process has the same legal legitimacy as a judgment from a court of law. And this is not just with respect to domestic arbitration, but with international arbitration as well. So you have over 150 countries which have signed this international document, which means that if an arbitration has taken place in any of these countries, including Belgium, the US, or India, each other countries which have been a signatory to it would automatically accept it. So you would assume that justice would now be accessible because arbitration is a great way to privately resolve disputes. But that's not the case, because arbitration is efficiently done only through specialized institutions, and these institutions actually charge a bomb. That screenshot talks about a case in Canada where an Uber driver was forced into an arbitration case and was asked to pay a lot of money to participate in it, but the Uber driver couldn't. And the funny thing about arbitration clauses are, if your contract, whether it's your employment contract or a terms and services contract, has an arbitration clause, and if there's a dispute, you can't really go to court. You might be forced to take it to an institution, and that can be quite expensive. So how can we solve this issue? There are two ways to go about it. One is automated enforcement. So if your final decision can be automatically enforced instead of going to a court, then you can build a system in which you're not really reliant on expensive institutions or the court for enforcement. So an example of this would be final decisions, which can be coded as smart legal contracts. So whatever the decision is, it can be automatically enforced, right? But we are not there yet with respect to complex disputes and decisions. But as we adopt more and more, or rather legally recognize more and more RWAs, automated enforcement becomes more widely adaptable. The second part is a private enforcement body. So if you're talking about disputes with respect to tiny bodies or like entities like Amazon or eBay, or even online platforms which are fighting issues with respect to whether artwork on their platform has been stolen, a private dispute resolution process, which is run by that body itself, will be okay because that body, even though centralized, that body actually has the power to enforce it. So a good example of this is eBay, which is actually the first example of crowdsourced dispute resolution, crowdsourced online dispute resolution. So what eBay did was eBay had a great guy called Colin Rule, who introduced this concept where if anybody had a dispute, if anybody had an e-commerce dispute, they could raise it, and eBay would randomly select participants, not judges, not lawyers, but random participants within the ecosystem to resolve the dispute. And it was actually quite successful. In fact, there was a study, so if you scan that, you have access to, oh, just a second. Okay, if you scan that, you'll have access to this paper, which says, according to eBay's dispute resolution case study, participants would go back to eBay to buy things if they had participated in the dispute resolution system, irrespective of whether the case was decided in favor or against them, which indicates that justice here does not really result on whether a favorable outcome was made. It primarily rests on whether you've had a fair hearing. So this is what eBay did. This is actually a great PhD thesis paper on crowdsourced dispute resolution, which takes into account eBay's case study as well, if you want to take a look at it. I'm going to be talking about how we can actually build dispute resolution models using decentralized tech. So there are three primary components that we could focus on: contracts, evidence, and dispute resolution. So the not so great about alternate dispute resolution is it can only be relied on for commercial disputes. But since it's just commercial disputes, contracts would be a great use case. So starting from contracts, one way to actually avoid conflict altogether is to make sure that your contract can be automatically enforced, much like how decisions can be enforced. Legal contracts can be converted into code, aka smart legal contracts, which can be automatically enforced. There aren't many people building solutions relating to this, but this would definitely be a great use case. This is something we would be going into detail at IPFS Camp if anybody would like to explore. The second aspect is evidence. So evidence management is actually a very expensive process, whether it be within arbitration or court resolution. A lot of money is spent proving the reliability of evidence. So what if you can make the evidence collection and management process such that it is automatically reliable, that you don't spend too much time in court or during arbitration, spending time on it. This is where IPFS or other decentralized storage solutions are quite helpful. So we are personally using Lighthouse because it is a great solution to store encrypted evidence. The third part is, of course, dispute resolution, and this is what I will be focusing on today. I'm working on two dispute resolution solutions, one which is relying on FEM for the dispute resolution aspect. The platforms I'm working on are Resolution and Justice Protocol, but I just wanted to throw light on Cleros, which is actually one very popular dispute resolution, blockchain-based dispute resolution mechanism, which people are actively using today. So the dispute resolution process is pretty simple. All you have to do is initiate your dispute. You record your facts and evidence. Ideally, if there isn't a contract management system, the recording of facts and evidence come after you initiate a dispute. But if you are able to build the system in such a manner that the transactions themselves are recorded as you're making them. Just to give you an example, let's say there's a contract where I want to buy meat from you, Sarah, from Brussels, and then we enter into a contract and you agree to ship it to me in temperature-controlled containers. But unfortunately, when it's delivered to me, the meat has gone bad, and then there's a dispute regarding who really is responsible for the meat to go bad? Was it post-delivery or during? If in this particular transaction, we were able to record temperature of the containers via some oracle and then store it on IPFS. During the time of dispute, we wouldn't have to spend so much time figuring out the reliability of the temperature data. In this case, not only do we cut cost of dispute resolution, but parties tend to not even raise the dispute because now there's irrefutable data. So yeah, so that's a great use case of IPFS with respect to evidence. So once you record the facts and evidence, you notify the other party, and they're given these details. And the other party also records the data, and once the data is available, it is made available to the jurors on the platform. So you can actually, so with Justice Protocol, what we're building is we're building customized tools. So you get to decide whether what the arbitrator selection process should be. Must it be one arbitrator or 3 arbitrators? Should there be certain standards set for arbitrators, etc.? So once the arbitrators actually, or the to be selected arbitrators have access to that data, they can actually sign up to be arbitrators. One of the algorithms that we use actually randomly select 3 arbitrators. We're also in the process of adding another feature wherein the likelihood of selection is directly proportional to your subject matter experience. And once they're selected, they have access to the data, and the final decision is published. So as a participant, definitely, I mean, I'm sure as a builder, innovator, or developer, you have a basic idea on the things that you can build. We will be exploring this in detail during IPFS Camp. I wanted to talk about how you can be participants in the decentralized justice system if you have absolutely no background in tech, right? So if you want to just try out a case real quick, you can scan this. So if I were to initiate a dispute, all I have to do is click the create a dispute button, add my name, summary of the dispute, maybe skirt order went wrong, tag it, upload evidence, opposite party's name. Sorry. I initiate dispute, and then I upload the document, right? And your cases will end up here. So this is just a demo of Justice Protocol. So your case will end up here. Now I'll just show you how it would look to the opposite party. So you have disputes which have been raised against them. Ideally, they would be notified. I have the option to reply. I can upload a document, and then I submit it. And once both parties have actually, in this particular case, we've made it such that a random arbitrator is just assigned. Right now, we're just doing it manually. So in this particular case, yeah. So I'll just show you how. So now that you've seen what it feels like for someone to initiate it and the opposite party to receive it, I'll just show you what it is like for the arbiter. So the arbiter has access to the dispute. They can view the evidence. So here, the remedy sought is here, evidence related. So this is about a case where somebody made an order for a custom-made skirt to be made. This was the image that they were provided with, and this was the image that they were given. Sorry. This was the image that they were given. So as an arbiter, now all I have to do is I can schedule a meeting, let's say for the 12th. And then both parties are notified, and then at this particular time, the parties will be able to join the meeting room. Right now, we've integrated Huddle. And once the hearing is done, I basically upload my document, which is the judgment. So as far as coming back to how people with absolutely no technical background can participate, we are moving towards this space where more and more people without professional legal knowledge will be able to participate in the justice delivery system. eBay and Cleros being an example, because knowledge of law is no longer a prerequisite. You just need to have good faith. Basically, you just need to have you just need to be able to act in good faith. So as participants in the decentralized justice system, you will be able to sign up, resolve disputes, and in the process, earn rewards for that. Yeah, thank you.